First of all, we have to download Unity, so head over to unity3d.com, find the download button, which shouldn't be too hard. There are 3 different versions. We're gonna go with Personal because this version is free. Honestly, there's really no big difference between the 3 versions. As long as you're not making more than 100k per year with your games, that's pretty much the only restriction there is, but let's be real, we're not gonna hit that all that quickly. So hit download or try Personal or however the button is called. During the installation process, you will be able to choose which packages you want to install. Certainly doesn't hurt to check the following 5: Unity, documentation, Android build support, Linux build support, and WebGL build support, but honestly doesn't really matter as long as Unity is checked, you're good. Install, install, install. This is the first thing you should see when you open Unity. Just press the magical work offline button. In case that doesn't work, you might just want to create a Unity account real quick. We want to make a new project, just call it First Game Experiment or something like that. Let's keep this on the default 3D, select a nice location and just click on Create Project. This will take a couple of seconds. This is what you should see once Unity is open. The interface consists of multiple windows. You can drag these windows around if you want. For example, I could put that one over here, or I could put it back here. You can change the size of these. If you mess this up at any point in time, you can go to the top right here, where you can choose between different layouts. Just reselect default and everything will be back to normal. Let's talk about what all of these windows do real quick. Down here is the project window, so basically the entire folder structure of your project. All of the resources, sounds, scripts, graphics your game has, everything comes in here. Here's where you can create new folders. And then when you click in Show Explorer, all of these folders really exist, so this is basically your project folder and you can manage that right here from within Unity. This right here is the hierarchy window. Here you can see all of the objects that are currently in your scene. At the moment, that should only be the main camera and the directional light. If you double click one of these objects, the camera will move towards that in the scene. Just clicking once is enough to select it though. So we have one camera and one light. And then you can see whenever we select something over here in the inspector window, we can see all of the components and all of the scripts that are attached to that object. So here on the camera object we have a transform. Every object in the scene has a transform because the transform just specifies the position, the rotation and the scale of the object. And then the camera also has a camera component, so basically the camera script that is responsible for rendering and all that sort of stuff, and an audio listener. So the inspector window over here is just really for having a closer look at the selected object. This right here is obviously the scene view, so here you can see all of the objects you have in the scene. If you press the middle mouse button, you can move the camera around. If you press the right mouse button, you can turn the camera and look around. And also if you keep the right mouse button pressed, you can use W, A, S and D to move the camera around, just like in a first-person game. If you press the Alt key, you can rotate the camera with the left mouse button. And you can zoom with the right mouse button and you can still move the camera with the middle mouse button. Definitely make sure you get familiar with these camera controls right here, because you'll have to navigate around here quite a bit. Here we can see a little cube that shows us where the axes are, so this is the x-axis, z-axis, y-axis. By hitting that cube in the center right there, you can switch to isometric view. In case you don't know what isometric view is, this is a cube in perspective view, and this is a cube in isometric view, so all of the sides become equally long and objects always have the same size no matter how far they are from the camera. You can toggle that on and off by clicking again, and you can also rotate the camera in 90-degree angles by clicking directly on the axis. There are 3 more windows right here. At the moment they are hidden. For one, down here is the console window. Here's where all of the errors and debug messages will appear. Once we have coded something, make sure all of these little icons here are pressed down, otherwise you won't be able to see warnings and errors. Make sure to check this window every once in a while, especially when something doesn't work as intended. Up here we have the game window, so this is how the game will look like. What's the difference between the game window and the scene window? Let me show you real quick. The game window basically just shows what the camera sees, so if we rotate the camera right here, for example, the game window changes. So this game window right here is what you will see once we hit the play button. And then we also have the asset store right here where you can download assets and scripts. We don't really need that at the moment. We can close that tab. Once again, if you accidentally close a window, you can bring it back here with Windows and finding the correct thing, or just once again clicking on the default layout and bringing everything back to normal. Now let me show you how you create a new object. To create a new object, we click on Game Object. and then either on create empty, so this will create a game object that just has a transform, and we can add behaviors and scripts ourselves. Or we can also create a game object that already has some stuff on it. We're gonna do that right now. We're gonna choose 3D object, cube. Now we have a cube in the scene. Try moving your camera around that a little bit, try to practice that, and then have a look over here. The cube has a transform component. We can change the coordinates here, or we can also change the coordinates in scene right here. If we want to move an object, you can choose between different modes. This mode is for moving the object. This mode is for rotating the object. This mode is for scaling the object. This mode is for scaling as well. And then this mode right here combines all of the handles, allows you to rotate, move, and scale the object. You can also create an object by right-clicking into the hierarchy and selecting either empty or whatever you want to create. Then here the mesh filter and the mesh renderer is really just for rendering the mesh. And then the box collider is so the object can collide with other objects. If it doesn't need to collide with other objects, you can remove that one. For now, we absolutely do want this to collide with other objects, so let's leave that in there. Also note that you can switch between different edit modes with W, E, and R. That should definitely go into muscle memory because that makes things a lot easier. W, E, R. Let's make that a little bigger so we can use it as a ground. Now if we look in our game view, we can already see the plane. Let's move the camera a little closer. Now if we click play, we can see this window right here. So at the moment the game is running, nothing's moving, so we don't see that the game's running. While the game is running, you can still do stuff, and this is actually pretty dangerous. For example, you can still move this around, make a lot of changes, edit your game. Same when the game is paused, you can still do all sorts of stuff. The only problem is, these changes are not permanent. You need to be very careful with this. Make sure you stop the play mode by pressing the play button again. And if you do that, you can see everything goes back to the place where it was when you started play mode. Do not, I can't stress that enough, do not make a lot of changes while play mode is enabled. All of that work will be for nothing, none of that will be saved. You can do so when you want to try stuff out, it's great for that because all of your changes will be reverted, but don't keep working on your game while the play mode is still enabled. In fact, I would advise you to go to Edit, Preferences, Colors, and then change this color, Play Mode Tint. Let's change that to red so we get a really clear and obvious warning sign when play mode is activated. Now if we hit play mode, everything will turn red. This way we know, okay, damn, I should not make any changes here. As I said, you still can still move all of that around. But once again, once you stop play mode, everything will go back to normal. Now let's make something that actually moves. Let's just create another cube. And to this cube, we're gonna add a new component, a new script if you will. For that, we just select the cube if it's not selected and add component, this button right here, and then search for rigid body, BAP. This means this is a physics object. When we click play now, this cube will fall down. I know, not that spectacular, but now if we duplicate that object with Ctrl D and create a couple more cubes, maybe stack them on top of each other like this, we already have a very nice physics simulation and we can see stuff moving on the screen. Very nice. So this is already something that's kind of fun to play around with. Cool. You can do the same with balls, by the way. Just create a new object, right click here, create sphere. Here we go. Now this is basically flying, frozen in space. If we want this to fall down as well, we need to give it a rigid body, not a rigid body 2D because we're not making a 2D game, but a rigid body. So now this ball should fall down as well. Cool. Yes. If we add a couple more objects, this list will soon be pretty damn long, which is confusing. The way you clean this up is we just create a new empty object, call this however you want to call it, and then we can just put everything in there. Here we go, all of the cubes, for example. And this way it just looks a little more clean. You can open and close this like this. Really doesn't make a difference. Still looks exactly the same when you hit play. Just a little more clean. Also has the advantage that now you can move all of these objects at once. You can activate and deactivate them all at once. Basically every object has a little checkbox right here. With that you can activate and deactivate the entire object. And another cool thing